You are a depreciating asset. You wake up every morning believing that your value, your professional worth, your social standing, your market utility is static or slowly increasing because you are gaining experience. But this is a hallucination. You are suffering from hyperinflation of the soul. Just as the central banks print trillions of dollars, diluting the purchasing power of every single dollar in circulation, the modern world is printing millions of average humans with identical skills, identical degrees, and identical worldviews, diluting the value of your existence. By the end of this protocol, you will understand that unless you are actively engaging in deflationary behavior, becoming scarcer, sharper, and harder to replicate, you are becoming the Zimbabwe dollar of the labor market. You are carrying around a wheelbarrow full of credentials and experience that buys less and less every single year. The soft men believe that showing up is enough. They believe that tenure equals value. The architect understands that in a world of infinite digital supply and rapidly advancing intelligence, average is not just neutral, it is a death spiral. You are either becoming rare or you are becoming obsolete. There is no middle ground. To understand why you are worth less, you must look at the credential bubble. For the last 40 years, the system sold you a lie. Go to university, get a degree, and you will be valuable. This was true in 1970, when only 10% of the population had degrees. It was a signal of elite cognitive ability and discipline. Today, the degree is the new high school diploma. It is a participation trophy for the middle class. The market is flooded with master's degrees and MBAs held by people who cannot think critically, cannot write persuasively, and cannot lead effectively. When everyone is special, no one is. The supply of credentialed signaling has outstripped the demand for actual competence. If you are relying on your title or your alma mater to protect you, you are standing behind a cardboard shield. The market has priced your degree in. It assumes you have one. It assumes everyone has one. Therefore, it pays zero premium for it. The soft men double down. They go back for more degrees, incurring more debt, trying to buy status in a market that has already moved on to demonstrable output. You are buying a ticket to a theater that has already burned down. This inflation extends aggressively into skill devaluation. Technological progress is an engine of deflation for human labor. Skills that used to be high status and high pay are relentlessly democratized. There was a time when being able to type was a career. There was a time when knowing how to use Excel was a superpower. There was a time when writing basic HTML was a goldmine. Today, these are baseline expectations. The rate of this devaluation is accelerating. With the advent of AI, skills that you spent a decade mastering, coding syntax, legal drafting, copy editing, translation, are dropping toward a marginal cost of zero. If you are not learning faster than the machine is learning, which is impossible for a human in raw data terms, your skill equity is evaporating. The architect realizes that hard skills have a half-life of about 5 years. If you are still trading on the skills you learned 5 years ago, you are trading with expired currency. You must pivot to the skills that cannot be automated: high-stakes negotiation, strategic synthesis, physical leadership, and the ability to hold the emotional frame in a crisis. These are the only things that resist the inflationary pressure of the algorithm. We must also confront the inflation of experience. Most men do not have 10 years of experience. They have 1 year of experience repeated 10 times. They fall into a routine. They learn the job in the first 12 months, and then they coast. They occupy the seat. They collect the paycheck. They believe that seniority protects them. This is the tenure trap. In a rapidly changing environment, tenure is actually a liability. It often indicates that you are expensive, resistant to change, and entrenched in old methodologies. The new man, or the machine, comes in with zero baggage, hungry, adaptable, and cheap. The market looks at your 10 years and sees 10 years of bad habits. The architect audits his experience annually. If you did not do something this year that scared you, if you did not solve a problem this year that you didn't know how to solve last year, you did not gain experience. You merely aged. You essentially paid a time tax without getting a wisdom rebate. You are functionally older, but economically stagnant. This divergence is the definition of personal inflation. The most insidious form of devaluation is the inflation of attention. Your ability to focus is the currency with which you buy success. But the modern world is an inflation machine for distraction. The algorithms of social media, the constant ping of notifications, and the fragmentation of media have destroyed the attention span of the average male. A man who could read a book in 3 hours 10 years ago now struggles to read a blog post in 10 minutes. His attention dollar has collapsed. He has to spend 10 hours of fragmented, low-quality effort to achieve what used to take 1 hour of deep work. This makes him inefficient, inefficient. It makes him slow. It makes him cognitively poor. Even if he has the same IQ, his effective intelligence has dropped because he cannot sustain the thought long enough to execute it. The architect fights this inflation by hoarding his attention. You reject the snack content. You practice deep work. You treat your focus like gold bullion in a world of fiat paper. A man who can focus for 4 hours straight in 2026 is the equivalent of a billionaire in a room of paupers. Furthermore, there is the inflation of access. In the past, being accessible was a virtue. Now, it is a sign of low status. The man who answers his phone on the first ring, the man who replies to emails instantly, the man who is always on, this man is perceived as a commodity. He is a utility. He is on tap. When a resource is easy to access, its perceived value drops. The soft men are terrified of missing out, so they make themselves infinitely available. They dilute their own presence. The architect manufactures scarcity. You are hard to reach. You are not available for brain picking. You are not available for quick chats. By restricting the supply of your time, you force the market to reevaluate the price. If they want you, they must wait. They must pay. They must prepare. You are reversing the inflationary curve by artificially capping the supply of you. The social marketplace is also suffering from connection inflation. The soft men collect followers and contacts like they are collecting bottle caps. They have 5,000 friends on LinkedIn. They have 10,000 followers on Instagram. They believe this is a network. It is not a network. It is a database of strangers. A network is defined by the strength of the bond, not the number of the nodes. Inflation has hit the word friend. It used to mean a man who would die for you. Now it means a man who liked your photo. The architect rejects this diluted currency. You purge your network. You focus on the trust graph. As we discussed previously, you would rather have 5 allies who act than 5,000 followers who watch. In a crisis, the inflated network evaporates like mist. The deflationary network, the dense, hardened core, stands like a phalanx. Finally, there is the inflation of morality. We live in an age of moral relativism and flexible principles. The soft men change their values to fit the current social trend. They apologize when the mob tells them to apologize. They support the current thing to stay safe. This makes their word worthless. If your principles are negotiable, you have no value. You are a leaf in the wind. The architect embodies moral deflation. You are rigid. You are old-fashioned. You have a code that does not change with the stock market or the election cycle. This rigidity makes you scarce. In a world of fluid men, the solid man is a landmark. People flock to him not because they agree with him, but because they can locate themselves relative to him. He is true north. Being the rock in the swamp increases your value exponentially as the swamp gets deeper. The realization is brutal. The world is designed to make you cheap. It wants you to be a generic, interchangeable, distracted, credentialed, obedient unit of labor. It wants you to be a fiat human. If you do nothing, you depreciate. You must actively fight the current. You must become the gold standard of your own life. You must become the asset that cannot be printed. The only cure for a depreciating currency is to stop holding it, and the only cure for a depreciating existence is to stop being accessible, understandable, and replicable. If the world is flooding the market with average human capital, you must implement a deflationary strategy for your own soul. This means you must aggressively burn the bridges that link you to the mass market. You must erect barriers to entry around your life that are so high and so painful to climb that 99% of the population and 100% of the algorithms cannot follow you. The soft men are trying to make themselves marketable by fitting into a predefined box. They want to be the perfect project manager or the perfect accountant. They are commoditizing themselves. The architect does the opposite. You are trying to become a category of one. You are trying to become a personal monopoly. When you are a monopoly, there is no competition. And where there is no competition, there is no price ceiling. You do not ask for a raise. You set the price. The moat of pain, the ultimate barrier. In business, a moat is a competitive advantage that protects your castle from attackers. In the age of AI and soft humans, the deepest, widest, and most crocodile-infested moat is pain tolerance. The modern world is addicted to convenience. Everyone wants the hack. Everyone wants the passive income. Everyone wants the result without the suffering. The AI is the ultimate convenience tool. It removes all friction. Therefore, value is fleeing to the places where friction is highest. Value is hiding inside the pain. The architect seeks out the hard things. Why? Because the difficulty is the moat. If a task is easy, the market will flood it with cheap labor and scripts. If a task is excruciating, physically, mentally, or emotionally, the supply of labor drops to near zero. The physical moat. Can you work a 14-hour day on a remote oil rig? Can you lead a team through a physical crisis? Can you stand in a room for 10 hours and negotiate without breaking? The soft men cannot do this. The AI cannot do this. If you can, you have a monopoly. The emotional moat. Can you fire a friend who is destroying the company? Can you sit in the silence of a no without fidgeting? Can you take total blame for a failure without making excuses? This requires an iron stomach. Most people would rather die than feel social awkwardness. If you can eat that pain, you own the room. The intellectual moat. Can you read the dense, boring technical manuals that no one else wants to read? Can you parse the 500-page legal document to find the one loophole? The soft men want the summary. The architect reads the source code. By voluntarily choosing the path of most resistance, you filter out the competition. You are not competing with the masses. You are competing with the few other savages who are willing to suffer, and there are very few of them. Otro. The specific knowledge. Escaping competition. You cannot become a monopoly by being better at a standard job. There is always someone younger, hungrier, or an AI model that is better at the standard job. You become a monopoly by being different. This is the concept of specific knowledge, a unique combination of skills, experiences, and personality traits that cannot be taught in a school and cannot be programmed into a bot. The soft men are generalists in the wrong way. They are average at everything. The architect constructs a talent stack that is bizarre and unique. You combine things that usually don't go together. You are not just a coder. You are a coder who understands maritime law and speaks Mandarin. You are not just a salesman. You are a salesman who was a Navy SEAL and understands supply chain logistics. You are not just a writer. You are a writer who understands biochemistry and private equity. When you stack these disparate skills, you create a Venn diagram of scarcity. In the intersection of these circles, you are the only inhabitant. You are no longer a guy. You are the guy. If a client has a problem that sits at that specific intersection, they have no choice but to hire you. They cannot price shop because there is no shelf to shop from. You have exited the commodity market and entered the sovereign market. The goal is to make yourself into a product that no one else can manufacture. 3. The economics of no, the velvet rope. The quickest way to increase the value of an asset is to restrict its supply. The soft men operate on a yes frequency. They say yes to every coffee meeting, yes to every lowball offer, yes to every distraction. They believe this maximizes opportunity. In reality, it signals desperation. When you are available to everyone, you are valuable to no one. You are cheap money. The architect operates on a no frequency. You implement a velvet rope policy for your time and attention. You must become comfortable with this strategic rejection. Fire the bottom 20%. You fire the clients who pay the least and complain the most. This creates a vacuum for high-value clients. The unreachable standard. You do not have a public calendar link. You do not pick up unknown numbers. To get to you, people must go through a filter, an assistant, a form, a referral. This friction signals status. It forces them to qualify themselves. The willingness to walk. In any negotiation, the person who is most willing to walk away has the leverage. The soft men need the deal to pay their mortgage. The architect has a war chest, as discussed previously. You can say no and mean it. When you are willing to kill the deal, the other side will often pay any price to save it. Every no you say is a deposit into your reputation bank. It tells the market that you have standards, that you have options, and that your time is the most expensive resource on the ledger. People want what they cannot have. By denying them access, you make them crave it. 4. The reputation of the black box. In an age of radical transparency and building in public, the architect embraces mystery. The soft men vomit their entire lives onto the internet. They post their wins, their losses, their breakfast, and their anxieties. They are open books. An open book is easily read, easily understood, and easily discarded. The architect is a black box. You show the result, but you hide the process. You show the victory, but you hide the struggle. This opacity creates a mythology. When people don't know exactly how you do what you do, they assume it is magic. They project their own fantasies onto you. They assume you are smarter, more connected, and more powerful than you actually are. This is the Wizard of Oz strategy. You maintain the curtain. You do not let them see the man pulling the levers. Information asymmetry. You know everything about them because they post everything. They know nothing about you. This gives you the tactical advantage in every interaction. The Oracle effect. When you speak less, your words weigh more. When you are mysterious, people pay attention to the few clues you drop. You become a puzzle that they want to solve. And as long as they are trying to solve you, they are thinking about you. You are occupying real estate in their minds, rent-free. V. The trust standard, the ultimate deflationary asset. In a world of flakes, scammers, and AI hallucinations, trust is the scarcest commodity of all. The soft men are unreliable. They ghost. They miss deadlines. They overpromise and underdeliver. They are moral relativists. This creates a chaotic, high-friction environment for business. The architect becomes the zero-entropy node. You are the place where chaos stops. You cultivate a reputation for terrifying reliability. If you say you will be there at 0800, you are there at 0755. If you say the project will be done on Friday, it is done on Friday, even if you have to stay up for 72 hours. If you make a mistake, you own it instantly and pay for it. This reliability acts as a deflationary shield. People will pay a premium to work with you simply because they know they don't have to worry. They are paying for peace of mind. In a low-trust society, the high-trust man is not just a service provider. He is an insurance policy. They are not buying your time. They are buying the certainty that the job will be done. This certainty is priceless. 6. The pivot to unscalable relationships. Finally, you must invest in the things that do not scale. AI scales, content scales, software scales. Deep relationships do not scale. You cannot have 1,000 best friends. You can only have a handful. The soft men are chasing reach. The architect chases depth. You focus on building an inner circle of high-value, high-trust operators, the trust graph. You invest time in these people that makes no economic sense on paper. You fly across the country just to have dinner. You help them move a body, metaphorically or literally if necessary. You engage in the gift economy, where you give value without an immediate contract. This builds a loyalty moat. When the algorithms change, when the market crashes, when the AI takes the jobs, your reach will be worthless, but your inner circle will be the lifeboat. These people will hire you, protect you, and trade with you when the rest of the world is burning. The deflationary strategy is a rejection of the modern mandate to be more. It is a mandate to be less available, less common, less understandable, but better, more reliable, more painful, more skilled. You are shrinking your supply to explode your value. You are becoming the diamond in the coal mine. The ultimate objective of the deflationary strategy is not to become the most expensive employee in the marketplace, but to exit the labor market entirely. As long as you are looking for a job or pitching clients, you are a subordinate. You are a vendor standing at the back door of the palace, hoping the master will let you in. This dynamic guarantees that you will always be underpriced because the buyer holds the frame of authority. The architect reverses this polarity. You do not seek work. Work seeks you. You transition from an outbound existence, where you are pushing your resume and your proposals into the void, to an inbound existence, where opportunities, capital, and talent flow toward you like iron filings to a magnet. This is the creation of the sovereign brand. It is the construction of a gravity well so powerful that you no longer need to hunt. You simply need to select. The soft men are exhausted because they are swimming upstream, fighting for attention. You are the dam. You sit still, and the river turns your turbines. To achieve this, you must first understand that your resume is a liability. A resume is a document that lists your past servitudes. It tells the world, I'm a compliant worker who fits into a standard slot. It invites comparison. When you send a resume, you are asking to be compared to 500 other men with similar keywords. The architect burns the resume and builds a media asset. You must create a digital twin of your competence. This means documenting your work, your philosophy, and your results in public. You write the code and post it to GitHub. You write the essays and post them to your newsletter. You film the process and post it to YouTube. This is not about being an influencer. It is about proof of work. When you have a library of high-quality output available online, you have a sales force that works while you sleep. A blog post you wrote 3 years ago about a complex problem is currently negotiating with a CEO in Singapore while you are at the gym. This is permissionless leverage. You are proving your value before you even enter the room. When the meeting finally happens, it is not an interview, it is a consultation. They already know you are the expert. The frame is set. The core of the sovereign brand is polarization. The soft men try to be palatable to everyone. They dilute their message, soften their tone, and hide their true opinions to avoid offending a potential employer. This is the strategy of a coward, and it results in being vanilla. Vanilla is safe, but vanilla is cheap. No one pays a premium for vanilla. The architect understands that in a noisy world, neutrality is invisibility. You must be willing to be disliked by the wrong people in order to be loved by the right people. You develop a signature tone, a specific way of speaking, writing, and operating that acts as a filter. If you are rigorous, blunt, and expensive, you will repel the weak clients who want a cheap, obedient button pusher. Good. You want them to run away. Simultaneously, you will attract the high-value clients who are looking for a savage operator. By polarizing the market, you reduce your lead volume but explode your conversion value. You're not looking for 100 clients. You're looking for the 3 kings who understand your language. A brand is not defined by who it includes, but by who it excludes. This leads to the transition from service to product. As long as you are selling your time, even at a high hourly rate, you are capped. You only have 24 hours a day. The architect seeks to productize himself. You take your specific knowledge, the unique skills we discussed in the previous section, and encapsulate it into an asset that can be sold without your presence. This could be a software tool, a course, a book, or a paid community. This detaches your income from your time. It allows you to scale, but more importantly, it changes your status. A service provider is a servant. A product owner is a merchant. The merchant has higher status. Even if you continue to offer high-end consulting, the fact that you have a product gives you leverage. You don't need the consulting gig because the product pays the bills. This walk-away power is smelled by the market. When you don't need the money, people throw money at you. It is the irony of wealth. It flows to those who have the least desperation. The final stage of the exit is the equity pivot. The soft men are obsessed with salary. They want a steady paycheck and a 401k match. They are renting their lives to a corporation. The architect plays for equity. You stop asking for cash and start asking for ownership. If you are truly a category of one, if you are truly indispensable, then you are not an employee. You are a partner. You negotiate for a percentage of the upside. You take stock options. You take a revenue share. You invest your own capital into the deal. Why? Because salary is linear. It grows slowly. But equity is exponential. It can go to the moon. By aligning your compensation with the success of the enterprise, you stop being a mercenary and become a warlord. You are fighting for your own empire, even if it sits inside someone else's platform. This is how you build dynastic wealth. You cannot save your way to freedom on a salary. You must own the assets that inflate in value. Furthermore, the sovereign brand operates on the mechanism of status transfer. When you have built a reputation for terrifying reliability and specific knowledge, you become a high-status node. Other high-status people want to be associated with you. They want to hire you, not just for the work, but for the signal that they can afford you. This is the Veblen effect. A Veblen good is a luxury item where the demand increases as the price increases. You must become a Veblen human. If you lower your price, people value you less. If you raise your price, people assume you must be the best. The architect constantly tests the upper limit of his pricing power. You raise your rates until people stop saying yes, and then you improve your product and raise them again. You are signaling that you are the luxury option. The soft men compete on price, who can be cheaper. The architect competes on value, who can be more expensive. You want to be the most expensive option in the market because the best is always the most expensive, and the serious players only want the best. This entire strategy culminates in the concept of the inaccessible creator. We discussed earlier the velvet rope and the black box. The sovereign brand is the fortress behind the rope. You are not a gig worker scrambling for the next meal. You are an institution. You have a waiting list. You have application protocols. You have retainers. You operate like a private bank, not a public utility. This structure forces the market to respect your time. When a client finally gets access to you, they treat the interaction with reverence. They listen to your advice. They pay your invoices on time. They do not micromanage you. Why? Because they know how hard it was to get in, and they are terrified of being kicked out. You have inverted the power dynamic. You are no longer the employee afraid of being fired. You are the talent afraid of being wasted. Ultimately, the sovereign brand is a spiritual stance. It is the refusal to be a commodity. It is the refusal to be weighed and measured by the standard metrics of the herd. You are declaring that you are a unique biological event, a collision of skills and will that will never happen again. You capture this uniqueness, you polish it with pain, you package it with media, and you sell it as a luxury good. The market is a brutal machine that grinds the average into dust, but for the rare, for the sovereign, for the architect, the market is a playground. You do not compete with the machine. You own the machine. You do not beg for a place at the table. You build your own table. The inflation stops here. You are no longer the Zimbabwe dollar. You are the gold standard. The price is set by you. The terms are set by you. The exit is open. Walk through it.